Hi, I'm Katie from What Katie Did, and welcome back to the bunker. I think now we're on week 6, but I'm not exactly sure. I dipped out last week and you had Richard, my husband, instead, and he spoke a little bit about photography. And thank you for all the feedback you gave him about his video. He is working on some more, but everything's undercover at the moment. But he is hard at work on plans for more videos for you about photography. I've had a few queries over the last few weeks about whether we're making PPE equipment, and the short answer is no. We're not actually making anything because all our factories are on shutdown. As if you've been following us for a while, you'll know that our main factory is in India, and we also make a small amount in Nottingham in the UK, and our fully fashioned stockings are made in the UK, and our Glamacines hosiery is made in Italy. So obviously our hosiery factories aren't very good for PPE. Italy's been on the shutdown for a long time now. So for our factory in the UK, they actually make lingerie for the prison service. So if you ever do something naughty and find yourself in jail, and they give you a bra and you'll think, this looks quite familiar. They don't use our patterns, but they do have a kind of a retro look about them. So if you that's one thing you won't have to worry about is your lingerie if you're in prison, because they'll be made by the same factory that makes some of our lingerie. But so it seems like because they've got a link to the service anyway, that they could get in there and make PPE and masks and everything. But when you think of a factory, you tend to think of a big open space with lots of people sitting in rows. And when it comes down to the lingerie factories I've seen in the UK, they tend to be very, very small. There's not very many of them left at all. And our lingerie factory in Nottingham, it's at the end of a normal looking road. It's a little road full of houses, and then it's only what I can describe as, it looks like some kind of Victorian church building, and a lot of the old factories are like in old Victorian brick buildings, and when you go inside, it's very small, so it's a lot smaller than you think it would be, and you go up the stairs and there's a corridor, very narrow corridor to the bathroom and the staff room, which again is very small. And then you've got the main cutting room, and off the main cutting room, you've got a few rooms where people sew, and it's all very, very close together. And you can't go to the bathroom or for a break without getting very, very close to other people. So it's really not viable for them to have stayed open and make PPE, because they can't do it safely. With India, our India factory is also on shutdown, and India shut down a week or two after the UK, so about the same time America shut down. And it's quite interesting because if you look at our factory in India, that is more like how you'd think a factory would look. So they have all the space and they could spread out, but the government has put these very, very stringent rules in place. And I was reading in the paper a couple of weeks ago that India, they had opened up a few vital factories. Obviously lingerie is not one of the vital factories, but they had opened up a few vital factories, and the article had said that they hadn't actually taken into account that yes, they can work safely when they're in the factory because there's enough space, but most workers in India are bused to their place of work. So you can't actually separate when you're on a bus or a minibus, and this is the same case with us. Our lingerie used to be made in a factory in the middle of the city, and 10-15 years ago the government decided they wanted to move factories out of the city, which is good. I mean, I guess it's similar to our factory in Nottingham, whereas the factory is at the end of the road, but at the end of a normal residential street. So in India, that was very, very similar. And now the government wants them to move on to more industrial estates on the outskirts of town, which makes sense as well as people become more mobile. But for the machinists, they basically come from the centre of the town in the minibus all the way to the factory, and you can't sit on a minibus and be safe from other people. You can't distance yourself on a minibus. And this was brought up in the article about Indian factories, and I've no idea what's going to happen, whether they will be able to open safely or whether the date will change or anything really. Everything's up in the air. So yes, it has kind of crossed my mind about whether we should be making masks when our factory goes back to work. It's a bit of a difficult subject for me though, because one, I don't think we should be, looking at making money from an essential piece of clothing, and when it comes down to it, we are running a business, and so we do need to make a profit. And everyone who's making PPE will be making a profit. So I don't know why I should have that feeling at all, but I do. So I don't really know what we'll do at all. And also the fact is that when you make PPE, when you make masks at home, they're not actually protective. They're not medically protective. So again, that's another issue. I mean, it might be that we do end up making fashion masks to go with our dresses out of fabric we've got left over, but that is very much in the future, depending on how things go. And at the moment, we've really got no idea what's going to happen when we're going to go back, when the factories are going to go back to work. It's just everything's so up in the air. It's very, very difficult to make plans at all. So what have I been up to? Well, as you can tell, I've been doing a lot of content for you, and behind the scenes, I've actually been working harder than ever. So I was looking at I normally work some of the weekends, and I was quite looking forward to taking it easy, working from home and only doing 5 days a week. But that just hasn't been possible. Although, I have vowed now to try and take things a little easier. Now we're kind of on a level. But at the back of my mind, I have had that guilt trip that I haven't been making any PPE. And when I look on Facebook, I know a lot of my friends on Facebook who are in the, they've got small businesses or they're in the garment industry. They're making PPE from home, and they're doing a great job. So yeah, I am feeling bad about that. But on the other hand, I am doing my best to ensure that all our team stays employed, they stay paid, and our suppliers get paid, and that we all come out of this at the other end with a viable business. So that's really been my focus at the moment. So if you do have any questions or comments about what Katie did, either to do with our vintage-inspired clothing or our vintage-inspired lingerie, please get in touch. And in the meantime, please take care, stay safe, and I'll catch up with you soon.